Okay, let's get started creating actual applications. You already know how Swift works a little bit, so you are ready to start creating applications for iOS, not just experimenting to how Swift works. So if you may remember, we have actually already created an application previously that we called Hello World, and that I can open by just clicking it on Xcode. Let me bring it to this monitor. And in this lecture, we're going to talk about the storyboard. I mentioned earlier that the storyboard is the place where you're going to design the user interface for your application. In here is where you would likely be adding more and more pages as you need them inside of your application, and you can also define how you navigate from one page to the other. Now, this storyboard is not the only way to add user interfaces to your app. You may notice that there is a zip file which is called launchscreen.zip, and this will actually help you create some other things, maybe smaller things that are part of the UI, as we have here the launch screen. But anyways, right now we're going to talk about the storyboard. You may notice that right now all you have is a view controller right here. And in fact, this view controller is linked to the view controller class. And you can confirm that by selecting the view controller. You can even expand this view in here to make sure that you are selecting the view controller and not the view controller scene or something else. And by selecting it and going to the properties tab, you may be able to notice that the class is actually set to the view controller. So yeah, this is going to be the class that is going to be controlling this particular view controller. And of course, if you notice, you can add more view controllers. You have this list of controls that you can add, or elements that you can add to your interface, and some of them are going to be entire pages, such as the view controller. As you can see, is just another view controller, just like the one we already have. Or maybe even, let me see, what else do we have here? A table view controller, which is going to be another type of view controller that allows you to have a table inside of it. And in fact, the class that should be linked to this view controller would be a particular class. We will talk about that in the coming lectures, don't worry. But right now you should just know that according to the type of view controller is the type of the class that you're going to be needing. For example, in here you can notice that the view controller is inheriting from UI view controller, and that allows that particular class to control this view controller, because in fact the view controller that we have in the UI is a UI view controller. On the other hand, if we had a table view controller, we would need the view controller, or the class, to inherit from UI table view controller. Don't worry if not everything seems quite clear right now. As we move forward through the course, you will find everything to just make sense. Right now, you may find yourself a little bit confused about some of the terms, maybe about inheritance or something, but don't worry, we will just walk you through everything that you need to know in order for you to create a great iOS application and even publish it to the App Store. Okay, so in the view controller, or in a table view controller that is going to have some space in here, you can add some other elements, for example, a label, by just dragging it from the right pane. You can add a button, you can add whatever element you can find in here, for example, a text field. And when you select either of these elements, either by selecting it on the user interface or on the list to the left that I have here, you can see to the right all of its properties. If we select the attributes inspector, make sure that you select the attributes inspector with that symbol. And in here you will have the kind of text that is going to be, in case of this label, the text that is going to be displayed, the color for the label, and so on and so forth. By the way, if you are not seeing this view in here, you just need to come down here to show or hide the document outline. I find that sometimes you do need to hide it. In fact, you may need to hide everything from the UI to just focus on defining the user interface and navigation of your application. Anyways, let's select, for example, this label, and I'm going to just change very quickly the text for the label to something like name and a colon. And you may notice that the text is too large to be fit into the label. So all I need to do is make it larger like this. Another thing that you should know about the storyboards is that you have to design the UI in a way that fits a screen. Right now, this UI that is shown as kind of a square is oriented for it to be designed to any kind of screen. Right now, we are not going to design our application to fit any screen. We are going to do that on coming lectures. Right now, we will just design it for a 4.7-inch screen. And you can see that things changed a little bit. But right now, we are just going to be testing our application on a 4.7-inch screen, which is the iPhone 6. So everything should look the exact same way as in the user interface. So I have added a label, a text field, and a button that right now don't do anything, but I can actually run it already just to see that my UI looks the exact same way as in the Xcode designer. The iOS simulator is going to launch with the device that I selected previously, the iPhone 6 that I selected over here on Xcode, and the application will launch with the launch screen that is previously designed for us. As you can see, it's the exact same one, and of course the UI should look the exact same way, as you can see, as the one that we designed on Xcode. I can of course add text to the text field and press the button, but since I haven't added any functionality, nothing really happens yet. So in the next lecture, we're going to define a little bit better this UI in order to get started with a better application that can actually kickstart you in creating iOS applications.